Hi guys, today it's not a bright start to this video I'm going to make with you guys, but it's reality. And though it doesn't have a good ending, or certainly the very high possibility of not being a good ending, I need to expose it. I need to bring it to light that only some of what you hear and see in the Philippines is actually even a tip of the real bigger problems. And I'm no guru on this. I don't know everything about it, but I'm going to give you this one situation which is actually encompassing in many situations that accumulatively has brought us to this pretty much end of the story. So here we go. On Facebook, someone chatted to me, and we ended up talking for a while. So I understand that she's having some problems down in. She lives in Mindinao. I can't even remember the name. I think it's called Siopat or Siacan. It's right on in the peninsula area of Mindinao, south, I believe, or not south. Yeah, southeast. Now, she sent me a video, and when she sent me a video, after we talked for quite some time, it would be like probably a month nearly or something, she started trying to trickle information to me, showing me that she really was in a bit of a dire situation. Now, of course, the first thing we all jump to when we hear someone trying to get something from us, let's look at it simply what it is. The reaction is to think, wow, this is a scam. Wow, this is going to be another one of those, some person trying to get something from you on the false pretenses or scamming or, embezzlement or whatever you want to call it, but that kind of stuff, right? So I was skeptical and cautious, and I didn't take much heed to it. But as time went on, we were just talking about general things. But what happened was, I think it almost into a month's time, 3 weeks actually, she sent me a late video. It was like in the dark, showing she had a big bruise on her side of her jaw. She was bleeding on the side there, and she had a lump on the side of her head. Now, apparently, from what she was saying, and she was trying to speak very quietly and being careful, is that she had a stepmother who's married her dad because the mom just dumped them and then ran off. And the stepmother is treating her like a slave. She's got her living in this small little, almost like a shack, and she ties her, to the room, and only when she needs her to go out to work, then she will take her to the market, and she has to work long hours and stuff. Now, again, as I say, I'm skeptical. I'm not a stupid guy. But what I saw, I told her to show me other pictures of it, the video, turn the video so I can see. And it was honest. It was honest from the fact that what you were seeing was not just makeup, wasn't just falsifying or something on the attack. She was beaten, and she even had a cracked tooth, lump here, and bleeding on the side. So I said, "What's going on?" She said to me, "You know what? My stepmother's a very nasty Muslim woman, and I'm not going to say that all Muslim women are like that, but she's saying it from her experience." And apparently in Mindinao, there's a large contingency, I'd say a majority, that are Muslims, and they're very brutal and very self-protecting. They cover each other. They make sure that no one does anything that they don't like, or if you go against the grain. We've seen this before where a foreigner's been in Mindinao, and he was just a complete idiot anyway. He was in Mindinao in that kind of scenario with his girlfriend, and he was making videos saying, what kind of he's going to fight against them, and they just took him away one night, shot him in the foot, and that was the last we ever heard of him. He disappeared off this earth. Now, I'm not going away with that, but what I'm saying is that it would seem to me that because of the contingency and the established mindset of these Muslims, which I might add, as I said, are the majority, because there are Visayans there, which are the original Filipinos of the island, Visayas. they are overrun by these Muslims. And because of that, the Muslims tend to, from what she's showing me, and as I'm going to explain, through all the actions in the space of like 3 to 4 months, she's shown me each stage through this journey how they have a strong influence in the police, the lawyers, the constabularies, the barangays, and they just have control and oversight of what goes on, even to a point where they can send someone out to take you off this earth. And I'm saying that because at one point in time she was threatened exactly that. Let me explain. Well, one day, as I said, she said to me, Chris, I can't stay here any longer. I can see that this is going to be a nightmare for me any longer. I need to get away. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? She says, well, first of all, I have to get my daughter. And she has a little daughter, which is in another part with her grandmother, right? She wanted to go there and collect her and maybe just go to like Davao or something like that, just to try and get away. But what was the situation is she had to get a bus and she had to get away from where she was. I think it's Sikiao to another part of the Mindinao peninsula area, which is like, she said, it's like about, probably like 6 hours on a bus. She didn't know exactly, but she said buses don't run from here. She'd have to get like a tuk-tuk to the bus, small, like a van, rather it's a van, not a bus. And from there they would take her, and that's always costlier using a van because the van is private and the private charge what they like. So I said, okay, look, I said, I don't have a lot of money, but you know what? If you're in such a dire situation, let's try and get you there. But I said, here's what I want from you. If you're going to do this, you need to get to the van. When you get to the van, tell them you'll pay them at the other end. Because what I'm believing is if this is the way it is, it's likely they can take your money and then just kick her to the side and drive off. I don't know, but I'm working on the worst case scenario here. And she's a girl. So anyway, she said, okay. She was happy to try, not happy to try that. She was actually in a state of must do this or else, she's in big trouble. Even their phone, she has to hide her phone so that they don't take it away. And I think they probably smashed her phone once, and she ended up having a friend came by one day, and he was the father, and the father, he was speaking to her, and she kind of like mentioned to him, and he was genuine enough to sort of help her get it repaired. It's still not 100%, but it works. So I digress. But anyway, she said, I'm gonna have to try and get a runaway during a late night. So it's like about 10 o'clock at night. She was due to go working like 5 o'clock in the morning. This stepmother comes around and kind of like unchains her and then takes her off to the market where she has to spend like 10 to 12 hours there. She said, look, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. She's going to come for me again. I said, okay. I said, look, okay, if you can get away, get to the bus or the van or whatever it is. I don't know what the cost is going to be, but let's see what we can do about it. I said, I can't promise you a lot, but if it gets you away from there, cool. So she did. She showed me she had a small video. She was walking along and saying, look, Chris, okay, I'm now arriving here. She speak to the guy at the tuk-tuk. He charged her like about 100 to take her like 2 kilometers down the road. She had a small bag with things. And she was still showing me the bruise and stuff all over her face, and whatever else, and on the shoulders. But it was like, just the fact that she was getting away was like a relief to her. You could see it on her face, and I felt good that she was at least not going to be treated badly by this goddamn woman, Now, she managed to get to the bus station. The tuk-tuk dropped her off to the right, not the bus, the van. The van said it was like, I don't know, like 5,000 or something. So I said, okay, tell them we'll pay when you get to the other end by Gcash or something like that. And the guy kind of agreed. I mean, he wasn't happy with that, but at the end of the day, he's going to get money. And if she arrives there and get money, he's happy with that. So she did. So it's like 6 hours later, she sent me a message saying, okay, Chris, I'm here. The guy, we paid him. I got the money to him. And she was then looking for a smaller place to stay. And she stayed with her grandmother in the end. She managed to find it. And the grandmother kind of like explained, oh, I was happy to see you. What are you doing here? And she spent time with her daughter. But again, the fear was there. The grandmother was saying, look, if you stay here, Your dad's going to come here, and the dad's like under the thumb of the stepmother. He will know you've come here and you need to move, you need to do something. So to cut this story shorter, it goes on for like months, is that every step of the way, she didn't take her daughter with her. She couldn't, because her daughter would then be a liability wherever she went. You know, she went somewhere, there's some nasty people. So she wanted to come or go to Davao, find a job, then save up money, and the idea was to then get her daughter from her grandmother, right? Now, it kind of escalated to a point where she then got a bus this time, which is like 300 or 400, to another part, I don't remember where it was. And when she was there, she managed to secure a small pension. And she had a little bit of money she'd actually hid from them, so she was using her own money as well. And again, I had to top it up. And she was there for like a couple of weeks. Now, while she was there for a couple of weeks, or not a couple of weeks, like a week, 10 days, the people there were all nice when she first came. Within 2 or 3 days, they were trying to attack her. Again, it was Muslims, because most of them own these properties there. They were trying to get her to pay more money, because they're saying, oh, you've been here 4 days, but we need a month in advance now. And they were doing everything they can to either kick her out, or to just get more money, and to show absolute zero humanity. You know, they're just nasty from what I'm seeing. And anyway, I guess one way or another she worked it out, but it was like really gritty. Again, she moved on to another place, and like 3 or 4 stages on the way to Davao, she stopped off, and she had to go to the dentist to get something done. I mean, she showed me the tooth where it was broken, it was come away. And the dentist say, okay, you know, we'll do this. And then he said, he set the price, it was 2,000. And while he's in there, he said, oh no, I found this and I found this and I found that. Before we know it, like 6,000, and he still needed more money. Again, I said, where's this guy? Is he a Basayan? She said, no, a Muslim. So every step of the way, these Muslims were just screwing their people, or anybody for anything. And he just kept going on. So she went to another place later on. And as I said, like this is like 4 or 5 times, you know, dropping off, getting onto another bus, moving, getting a trike. And she ended up in Davao, near Davao. She couldn't go into Davao because apparently her ID wouldn't allow her into the city. And they've set up some tough, stringent measures to check for IDs from provincials going into the city. Obviously, they want to try and keep as many out as possible. But she didn't realize this. And when she asked the bus people, they said, no, we can take you in there. But when she got to the outskirts, the security said, no, you can't come in because your ID isn't valid to come into the city. So she was stuck out on the perimeter of Davao, having to find another place to live. Again, you know, living in a small room. Again, I had to help her. So financially, I was the backer, and I was not happy about that. But I could see this was not just an ordinary situation, you know. I've seen videos all the time on the bus. I've seen videos when she's arrived at the hotel and she's, or the pension or the small apartment, and trying to talk to people. I can hear the conversation in the video, and they're all saying, what are you doing? Why are you taking the video? She said, well, I'm talking to somebody in Manila, and they didn't like being in any way, shape or form being exposed. So she didn't take a picture or video of them. Just as we were talking, she's kind of pointed it to the floor or the wall or something. And there was this constant betrayal of someone trying to get somewhere and do something and pay what she needs to do, only to find that was never enough, or they changed the rules, or they said, well, no, we got someone who's going to come in and pay more money. So they've taken her money, and after 2 days, they said, oh no, someone's come in, we have to let you go because this person's going to pay us more money, another 3,000 or something. And this happened a number of times. She'd already paid, she was in the room, they come along and say, look, okay, we need you out, you know, you need to get out of here. And if she even argued with them, they got nasty with her and even slapped her. And so it's just like control to the point of obscenity, right? So she was ousted out time after time because of this, because they saw more money coming in. And even when they've committed to her, she's paid them money, which they forced her to. Look, we need this money up front. If you don't give us this money, we're not going to let you in. And even though she did this, they then turned the whole thing on her and said, look, we need you out now. And they didn't even want to pay back the money that they took. She had to stand and argue with them. And even then, they got nasty and said, oh, we got friends here who can come and sort you out. And if you don't get out of our apartment, we're going to come and lock you in and then get the police, and the police is on our side. It's really very brutally ugly, nasty people mindset, excuse me, and just general don't give a shit for anyone else's safety or even their word. Their word meant nothing. And the fact that they can manipulate the police, they can manipulate even some of the barangay and the officials and the attorney, because in the end she ended up going to one, because she went around the corner and saw a sign saying attorney of law, and she went in and talked to the woman. The woman seemed okay, and the woman was trying to get, and she was a Basayan, she was trying to get some of the money back and find out what was going on. But apparently they threatened her. The lawyer said, I can't take this any further. They're threatening me and my business and my children. So she had to capitulate to the pressure of living in that town or village. So it was like, it's horrendous. So even this woman couldn't operate in her full capacity as a lawyer. And in the end, she didn't get the money from that because she had to step away. So this is like, this happened time and again. I would count this many times in the space of 3 months. Absolutely horrendous. And then she was taken to the police one day because some woman said that she argued with her. So when she got to the police said, oh no, why did you argue with her? She said, well, you were nasty to her. And the woman claimed, which again is a Muslim, oh no, she made me lose business because she was arguing with me and the people see it and I've lost confidence and I'm going to lose money. And the police took the woman's side and said, we're going to put you in this cell unless you pay us 3,000, 4,000 in fact, for this woman because of what you've done to her business. We're not going to let you out. Ridiculous. And while she was in that prison cell, a day or so while she talked to me and tried to get it, they tried to take her phone away. She said, look, if you want money, I've got to try and speak to someone. But while she was in there, within that first night, the police officer tried to rape her. This is what you're dealing with. The barangay police was trying to rape her, one of them. I'm not saying all of them were the same, but obviously he was on duty and she said, oh, it's another guy with her. There's two of them. They tried to slap her and come into her room and tried to rape her, but she didn't tell me exactly. They may have done, but maybe she didn't want to say. But she said, Chris, I need to get out of here, otherwise they're going to keep doing this. And she took a video of the back of one of the guys. He didn't see, but and again, they took her phone away afterwards. But she'd already sent it to me. There was the picture of him walking away, kind of like very angry and shouting at her and stuff. It's like horrible. So anyway, I ended up paying that 4,000. They let her out with a lot of hassle and said, oh no, we keep an eye on you, rah. So that woman Muslim made 4,000, right? Which they gave, they walked her down to the woman, she gave the money, and that was it. No written receipt, no nothing. They didn't want to do any of that shit. The police stood on the side of that Muslim woman, got the money, and the woman still sweared at her and said, no, don't come here again. And the woman was just nasty and bitter. So, again, like I said, this has happened a number of times. So, she was in a situation now where she went closer to Davao City, and while she was there, she made certain calls. She was fairly savvy about some things. And she called an administration in one of the tourist places and said, look, I want to come into the town. How do I get it? And what do I need to do to come in and apply for my ID and stuff? And they said, okay, they sent somebody out to meet her, and they sat and did the paperwork and so on. The guy showed his legitimacy, who he worked for in a company. And she managed to get in there. It cost another 2,300, right? And then the guy went with her and they took her in and she had no problems. No, the thing is, while she was there, this was like 5 days ago, in fact, she ended up getting a sickness. I don't know what it was. It could be from the injuries or something. And she was feeling sickly. She collapsed on the floor several times. She managed to send me a picture saying, Chris, look, here I am. I can't do anything. I can't move. So she ended up, when she signed this contract to get her ID, the part of that contract to get the ID was to have PhilHealth, which is a Philippines basic health service. You agree and you pay, subscribe to it. Luckily she did, because that helped her to get an ambulance. I could see the picture of her in the ambulance as well, where they took her to the hospital. That doesn't cover a lot of the hospital costs, but it covered for the the research on checking who she was, giving her a check over, letting her apply for, I think, minor things, and checks and so. But in the end, it was like, they said you need a blood transfusion because your red corpuscle level is very low. It's not even, it's just about countable, and she's fearful of that. So she showed me the receipt of what the guy said and the breakdown of what it was from the doctor. And again, he wanted like 8,000 to do this, and she said, well, what is it? And it's like they needed blood transfusion. She had to have a full blood transfusion to clear out the old blood. Now, again, I'm tired. I had to now. I couldn't just leave her in there. So I thought, okay, look, let's get it done. I'll see what I can do again. So we're in a situation where they started the transfusion. I said, confirm that your blood type is correct. Don't let them give you the wrong one. The way everything's been going so far, I was trying to preempt her, and so she's not going to walk into a stupid situation and then they go, oh yeah, nah, we done it, and something was wrong with you. And guess what? Apparently the doctor, who we then found out like only today, was an intern, and he did the transfusion. He was getting angry with her because she was using the phone and writing to me, right, rather than concentrating on his job. So like this morning she had it all done, but she was feeling really sick. Not better, she was actually feeling worse. Now, the doctor then came over, because they had like a watcher in the ward, like a nurse, and she comes around and check and ask how you are. So I'm not sure how that worked out exactly, but she said, look, I'm feeling sick. My chest is tightening, I'm feeling weak, I'm getting very hot flushes, and my legs are hurting, and I'm just aching everywhere. My temperature's gone up. So they called the doctor in again. The doctor was just saying, well, what's the matter with you? You got to give it time. And he was being non-professional, just a complete arsehole for an intern, which is sad. So she said, look, Chris, something's wrong, and I'm feeling wrong, and this, he's just saying to me, I got to adapt to it. Something is wrong, she said. I said, okay, look. She said, what do I do? Because she doesn't know the process. I don't know the process in a hospital, but I do know that there are certain steps in terms of, you can speak to the administrator, at least certainly in the Western world. I said, look, ask the watcher or the nurse, you want to speak to the administrator of the hospital. It doesn't matter. You don't explain to the young girl or guy who it is. Just talk to that administrator alone and explain to her what happened, what my fears are and what her fears are and what she's experiencing right now. That something is not right, because she didn't go there feeling like that. She was weak, but yeah, now everything is hurting. She's getting all sorts of additional issues to the body, chest pains, clamping, throat drying. It was terrible from what it sounded like. So she spoke to the admin. The admin girl was like, kind of like, yeah, okay, well, you needed to have this as well. When you had this transfusion, you need to have some palatio, I think it's called palatio. It's to do with the level of something else in the blood that's supposed to be transfused together with the blood and with this palato. I don't know what it was exactly. But it's to do with your level of resistance and immune system that's working to help to improve on the circulation in your blood, white and red corpuscles and how they operate to put you at the optimum, right? Now, they didn't tell her this at the beginning. They tell her now. And the this administrating guy is saying, oh yeah, you should have had that done as well. And because you didn't have that done, that's why you're having all this contraction around the chest and feeling poorly and so. And I said to her, look, why did they do anything if they knew this was going to happen? I said, look, you need to say to her, this is an error on a doctor's part. You're in a general hospital. The doctor, you go there with a sickness, the doctor should not give you something without being clear about what it is he needs to do, or at least seek advice through his superiors or other doctors who are more experienced. I said, this is on them. They need to do something. So I kind of put a fear factor in there. So look, tell them, if they don't do something about this, I'm going to write about it here in Manila. And I have a brother in the US who is a medical nurse. He's a dialysis nurse, and he knows his shit. Tell them, we are going to look into this, and we're going to, if we have to, write to the medical bureau over here in Manila and get this looked into. And I wanted to use that as a kind of pressure, not to scare them, but just to give them an idea that they weren't just talking to some girl who was like from the province and had no backup, right? And then the woman kind of stood back for a while. She kind of, yeah, okay, I'll check it out. And she said, I'll come back to you. Anyway, she came back later on and said, well, no, you still needed that. The doctor, we're going to fire the doctor. He did do it wrong. He shouldn't have just gone ahead and done that without telling you need to do both of these procedures at the same time. And we're going to fire him. So apparently she was saying to me, my friend, that, you know what? Yeah, they're going to fire her. I said, well, that's not going to help your situation. What they're doing is their business. You are in a situation where they've created you a bigger problem. What is she going to do about that? You know? And she translated this to the girl. And the girl said, well, look, unless you want to pay, you got to start the whole process again, pay another 8,000, then all these political things are like 10,000 each, and you're going to have 4 of those. So you're looking like nearly 60, 70K, right? To get this going all from the start again with the additional palate intake as well, which doesn't guarantee anything. That could all be just a load of bullshit. So I said to her, look, you know what? I can't take it any further. I've gone as far as I can helping you out here. But you know what? You've got to make them make them believe, and make them understand that they have screwed up and they're putting your life at risk. And if they cannot at least resolve it back to some point where you at least stable, you are going to be in deep trouble. You're going to be in big trouble. So she spoke to the woman again. This is like later on today. And the woman said, oh no, we can't move forward, you know, unless you pay for these things, we're going to have to discharge you from the hospital. So she can't walk because she's weak. She can't actually move much. She had chest tightness and she's having a flush all the time, and they're going to kick her out or use that as leverage to get someone, i.e. me or whoever it is that was paying before, to pay for this service that they screwed up. How corrupt, how unprofessional and disgusting is that, dudes? How bad is that? And this has probably happened to, I hate to think how many provincials who don't understand the rules, who don't have any real empowerment. They just go there, they just get told something, they get injected or given medication that doesn't work. And if they say, hey, that this doesn't work, the doctors or the nurses just go, oh yeah, well, maybe some other problems that you've got that we don't know about. There's no admitting to anything. There's no accountability, period. They just want your money, and then they just want to kick you out. And she's even saying to me, they don't even want to, after she told the doctors, like, you know, something's wrong here, she said the doctors and the nurse somehow stopped paying her any attention. And I said, why? She said, the nurse came over and said, we can't spend any more time on you. We have to go and look after those people because they paid more money for their service. So they're putting a price on life and a price on the person who came in and paid money, took her money, and now you're rubbish, you know, discarded because you're not going to pay more money. We're going to focus on these other people who are going to pay more money that we can get more from. Wow. This is the Philippines. So if you get sick here, if I get sick here, I'm fucking going to make sure that I'm going to go to somewhere that I'm telling you that's going to give me maximum protection. Maximum protection. But guys, this is a lot more involved than what I'm telling you. I've tried to skim over it because there's a lot more going on. There's more situations where she had to have I think it was like she had a high temperature, and this local doctor gave her an injection, and he gave her something wrong, which again reacted with her body. And he just said, oh no, okay, you know, if you want to get better, there must be something wrong with you. If you need to resolve this problem, you need to pay us more money. And again, it was about more money. Never mind the result. Never mind this person's suffering. Never mind that it could kill her. Never mind there was a serious, crucial situation going on here. They're just focused on, what am I going to get for you? What are you? Buy this product from me. I want you to buy this product. If you don't buy this product, you're going to go. I'm not going to come and visit you. I'm going to kick you out of this room or the clinic or the hospital. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. So guys, I don't know if this is going to help you in any way, shape and form, but I wanted to at least put this story on my site, because if you're traveling here, you better make sure you've got some kind of protection, some cover. And if you're in the provinces in particular, and don't just put it down to provinces, even the big hospitals in certain areas, you know, if they're not monitored, if they're not really kind of like under the supervision of maybe sort of like higher authorities, or like maybe they share resources with international companies, you know, I think you're putting your life in your hands. So just be careful where you go, man. Bring as much of your own medicine and be ready. But guys, it's a pitiful state. Anyway, this girl's now been kicked out of the hospital. They're giving her, because she can't walk, they've set up an ambulance to take her back to her pension, which is like where she's staying for another couple of days. And they're just going to drop her off and leave her to die, basically, because, you know, she can't get a medication. She's already had the medication. They did it wrong, but now they want more, and they want to add more value to their wealth rather than to her life. So I have no idea. I can see that this is going to be a very sad ending for her, and I feel for her, but there's nothing more I can do about it. So that's where we stand, and that's where it is for her. She must be scared out of her wits, on your own, in Davao, and no one to turn to, not even to move around. Anyway, guys, Chris here in Manila.